once again, and thanks for being a part of Leading Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Each week, we try to find people with passion and purpose, and we've done that once again this week. He is the youngest AD, athletic director of a Division I program in the entire country, and under his leadership, the University of Toledo is just coming off one of its most successful calendar years ever. Take a look.
I know that I hurt you. I was a child trying to be a man. I walked out on my only son. I left you in your mother's hands. And now I'm standing right here with tears streaming from my eyes.
Everybody get your roll on. I know shorty and she doesn't want a slow song. Had a man last year, life goes on. Haven't let the thing loose, girl, it's so long. You been inside, know you like to lay low. I've been people what you bringing to the table.
And I'll tell you what, here are the stats to back all of that up. Look at this. Last year, the student athletes at U Toledo brought home a record 6 MAC titles. UT was the first school in major college history to win league titles in, you ready? Football, men's basketball, women's cross country, and men's and women's tennis. The UT Rockets celebrating a bowl victory. The women's basketball team making the NCAA tournament and getting a win over Iowa State. And last but not least, UT saw a record-setting student-athlete GPA. We want to welcome back to Leading Edge Vice President, Director of Athletics, Bryan Blair. You were so trained. I know you've seen that video multiple times, probably consulted on it as well, but you were so trained into that, watching every move. You're still excited. You're still hyped up by seeing the success.
I've probably seen it 20 times and I get goosebumps every single time.
Yeah.
It was an amazing journey, but it excites me even more because I just know we scratched the surface of what we can be. That's the start, not the end. We've got a long way to go, but I'm so excited for the future.
You truly believe that, and I mean, that takes a huge effort, and I think immediately well, you can't stop graduating seniors, Bryan. You've got to recruit, you've got to get out there, you've got to make this program really strong.
Yeah, well, I think it starts with our coaches. We had 5 coaches of the year within the MAC last year. All 5 are back. That's somewhat of an anomaly in today's college athletics. So when you have that core of coaches around, recruiting great young people, those grades, those championships, everything else becomes possible. This place has got a ton of potential beyond what we just saw. We've got an amazing city that's one of the largest in our conference. We've got an amazing university that hosts a variety of majors and allows our student athletes to be the best in whatever they want to be. When you combine all that with athletic success and what sports mean in Ohio, we've got a special recipe here.
We've had a lot of people on Leading Edge who walk the walk and talk the talk. How important was culture for you when you came into this position? And being there for the time you have now, is it still that important? Do you try to drive that home every day?
Absolutely, and I think a lot of our culture was already in place well before I arrived, right? I think we've got tremendous coaches, we've got tremendous young people, a commitment to academics was in place. What I've tried to do is continue to up our expectations, make sure we're aiming high enough in everything that we do, increase the energy, increase the positivity with how we do it, and add a little personal touch. So it's really augmenting what was already in place, which is really, really good. But I've talked a lot about this. My favorite book is Good to Great. And our plight is how do we take this athletic department from being really, really good, great by some standards, and take it to that next level.
One question I had for you today is because living here, growing up here like I did, people have tunnel vision about UT, and I'll date myself, TU of old, but this is not yesteryear's university. UT offering world-class, you just mentioned it, world-class degrees. The student athletes who are coming in here are bigger, faster, stronger than they've ever been. So how do you keep that momentum going, and how do you change the mindset? And maybe it's part of our Team Toledo discussion in our second segment, but how do you make people realize the gem, the jewel they have here?
Well, the amazing part is our student athletes already believe it. I sat down with a men's football player and a women's basketball player just the other day and asked them what are they excited for, and both of them said, we've got more we can do. We didn't do enough last year. That's a program that won a bowl game and a conference championship on the football side, and on the women's side, they upset the Big 12 tournament champion, and they're both saying we want more, we can do more. So our student athletes believe it, our coaches believe it, our staff believe it. I think continuing to communicate to everybody involved to say, hey, what we've done is great, we can do more, but we need to lean into each other. I believe the same is said for this city. We can lean in, we can do more, the same for the university. So I know we're going to get into that, but again, we're scratching the surface, but we've got to stretch a little bit further than we've ever stretched to accomplish something we've never accomplished. But if we do, what that looks, feels, and sounds like, it's going to be something that's going to take our breath away.
What kind of guidance did you get from other ADs, other people who knew you were accepting this position and said, Bryan, do this, make sure you don't do that?
Well, I mean,
And who were they?
I don't want to drop too many names, but I'll say this candidly. Many of my mentors told me this was the job. I'd gotten other opportunities, or people had reached out about other opportunities. They said, no, Toledo's the one. You need to make sure that's the one for you. You go after that one. Because they not only saw what was already done here, but they knew there was more in the tank. And I think that's commonly accepted within AD circles, that this is one of the best jobs in the country. I mean, we just led the conference in attendance in men's and women's basketball and football all in the same year. That's the first time any MAC school's ever done that from an attendance standpoint. That happens because of this city, this university, and this fan base buying into what we're talking about, and they're passionate about their Rockets. You can't recreate that at places. So when you add that to the talent that we have on our teams, we've got something special.
Talk about the confidence you have walking around campus. And you and I have had discussions here in the past where I've said, after some of your speeches I've heard you give, I've wanted to get up and run through a wall because of that spirit, that passion you bring. So how do you bring that to your coaches? How do you keep your coaches up? Obviously, they've got good contracts. They are making money doing what they're doing. However, it's human nature to have those moments, those down moments. How do you keep them fired up?
Yeah.
Fired up about Toledo.
Well,
Toledo.
If I have to fire them up too much, we probably got the wrong coaches.
I gotcha.
Lucky for us, we don't.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: when you can get individuals to buy into a vision larger than themselves and understand the impact that's possible, just on the other side of hard, special can happen. And I think we've started to see that. When you say, okay, what would it mean for us to be one of the premier athletic departments in the entire country? Not in the region, not in Toledo, not just in the Midwest, the entire country. What would that look and feel like? What would that mean if you got a Toledo Rocket shirt on and you're on the beach in LA? Somebody says, wow, the Rockets, I saw them do this year. Or you're downtown at Times Square in New York. I want that to be the feeling for all our citizens, all our staff members, all our students, to feel that power of what this brand can do when we all pull together.
How much better can that exposure get?
I think the sky's the limit. I really think we've got our action opportunities, right? We play on ESPN in football. We played, I think 6.1 million people saw us play football this year. That's an amazing stat. But when you talk about the upper echelon of programs, really that top G5 program competing for that New Year's Six or possibly a college football playoff spot in the expanded playoff, what that can mean for this city, I don't think you put a price tag on it. I don't think you can really quantify what that looks like. But I know everybody in this city will be really, really proud to be a Toledo Rocket.
Did you ever think you'd do so much traveling in the last year as you did to championship games?
I'll tell you, it never gets old.
Yeah.
It never gets old. And whether it was football or probably one of my favorites, quite frankly, was men's tennis on the road at Western Michigan, upsetting the team that's consistently won the championship and doing it on their home court. Each one of them was special. And you try not to take those for granted, because in the same breath, I'll say we've got way more that we can dig deep on and accomplished.
Yeah.
I also know that these things aren't promised. And you need some luck, you need some good people, you need some sunshine to make it happen.
We're fired up here on Leading Edge. When we come back, you may have seen the yard signs around town, but Bryan has been touting Team Toledo ever since he landed. We'll talk about that effort, what it means for not only UT, but the greater Toledo region, right after this. Welcome back in here to Leading Edge. I'm Jeff Smith. When Bryan Blair took over as athletic director at the University of Toledo, his vision was about more than just the university. It was about the community and the region, and how UT could be this ultimate partner. So, Team Toledo, let's dive in. And for people who don't know, what is it? From where did this idea come? From where does it go from here?
Yeah, I think one of the things I initially noticed, even before I got the job, as I was researching the opportunity, was all the amazing opportunity in the city. If you talk about Epic Toledo, or you talk about the Regional Growth Partnership, you talk about the Mud Hens, the Walleye, all the local businesses that are in the community, our living alumni within such a close radius, our proximity to so many major cities. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, and you're like, wow, Toledo's a special place. You cannot recreate this city other places. So we'll throw out strategies, we'll do things in the athletic department, but our competitors can't recreate the city.
Are you talking simply where we are on the map, or what this place has to offer?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
A little bit of both. I think our proximity to Detroit, or the Detroit International Airport or Columbus or Cleveland or Chicago all make a difference, right? And I think those are pockets for recruiting. I think those are pockets for business opportunities. I think it just brings a lot of fan base and a lot of population centers close to what we're trying to do.
So what I'm hearing is people, the developers around town, the real estate execs who are touting the crossroads of America, UT's doing it too.
I buy into that. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid because what I saw on video and all my research showed me that's the case. And it's not only that I believe it, I see it in our stands. I see us from an attendance standpoint. I see us from a business opportunity standpoint. Those opportunities are real. So when you talk about our business community and its population and how much they love sports, I think that's special to Ohio. Ohio probably only similar to Texas, maybe in terms of the passion at a high school level and up in terms of intercollegiate sports. That's something to build on.
You had a meeting of the minds here a couple of months ago where you brought in some of our local leaders and business heads who you wanted to pick their brains, basically. Talk about that a little bit. What that meeting, what were the fruits of that meeting, and how often do you get together with these individuals? Why did you want them to come in?
Well, the power of the Team Toledo that we just talked about is you've got this really special city, you've got this really special university, and you've got what I believe is a special athletic department. If we link together and share thoughts, share ideas, and pull in the same direction towards a shared vision, special can happen. And so that meeting that day was really to bring in all these stakeholders from all these different pockets, including our student athletes, including some students and faculty on campus, and say, hey, what should Toledo athletics be? What can we be more of? What should we be less of? What ideas do you have for the future? But also educate them a little bit about the changing environment of college athletics and all that we're facing nowadays, that the way we did things 5-10 years ago may not be the way we can do them going forward. So a really good meeting of the minds, a lot of education, a lot of ideas exchanged. And so we'll do that once a year. We'll do an annual retreat where we focus on the strategy of this athletic department, but also how we can serve the city and this university, because we're going to announce some big plans this fall. In terms of our future direction, from not only a vision standpoint, but from a facility standpoint, just a new way of doing things. So really excited about the fruits of that labor early on in May, leading to what we're headed towards.
Besides the excitement around a team that does well and the graduates who stay here, you don't experience brain drain. How does a university, how does Team Toledo help the efforts to revitalize the city, to revitalize the community? Maybe where some have done in the past and maybe will not in the future. Does Toledo take the ball from here and run to the goal line?
Yeah, to me, I think the city and the university are sitting on a gold mine in terms of our athletic department because of the civic pride and the university pride that we can help instill. When we have success, I hope that regardless of whether you attended Toledo or not, you have pride in your city, in your community, and we represent that in a big way and can represent that in an even bigger way going forward. There are very few things that can bring 25,000 people together all screaming and representing that name of a city across your chest. We can do that. And so the more we can lean in that direction and make people proud and excited about the city they live in, I think the better for all of us.
Do you remember, and I'm going to put you on the spot, do you remember any of the ideas specific to the city that came in, not necessarily things we can do better within the confines of Dorr, Secor, and Bancroft?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big outcomes was talking about how we can better engage our business community. I mean, we've got more businesses here than almost any MAC schools ever even thought about having in their local proximity. We've got student athletes that need internships, that need mentorship. How can we bring those two together? And in turn, I think those businesses will lean back into the university. So there's a huge opportunity there to cross-collaborate and get our student athletes real life experience where hopefully they ultimately decide to live in Toledo upon graduation, but then also bring those businesses closer to our athletic department because the revenue and the outcomes from that will be really helpful as we try to grow going forward.
Reciprocity almost.
Yes.
Talk about I guess the partnership that exists between academia and athletics, because I came from I went to Indiana University. There were professors on that campus who hated Bob Knight in the time that I was there, had thought basketball did nothing for the university. I don't get that feeling from the University of Toledo. I think it's a big buy-in there on the campus, is it?
Yeah, well, I think on every college campus, you've got some athletics naysayers. I think that's just everywhere I've ever worked, you've got that. But by and large, I think we've got a campus that understands from a recruitment standpoint, the exposure we provide, but then also the engagement standpoint, to be a part of the retention strategy for students to come to our stadiums and spend 2-3 hours yelling their face off and going crazy with their best friends. I hope they meet their future spouse there. We had a wedding engagement on our field this past year. I mean, those are the type of memories we want our students to foster because we want them to come have fun.
I could see Love Connection weekend coming up at one of the University of Toledo football games.
On the 10-yard line, it was amazing.
Stay right there. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the plans for the future for for the University of Toledo. And I mean, we're just a few weeks away. You already told me, you're like, I'm already thinking about, we're only a few weeks away from the start of football season. What the fall holds, what the future holds for the University of Toledo. Stay with us. Welcome back here on Leading Edge. Bryan Blair, Athletic Director of the University of Toledo, joining us today. We wanted to talk a little bit about the future plans. And you and I were talking about, I said, having grown up here, see Bancroft, see Douglas, see Secor and Dorr, and you think to yourself, man, what more can they do? You said there's a lot of possibilities still on that land.
Yeah, I think we've got to think creatively. We've got some of the better facilities in the Mid-American Conference. We're really proud of that fact. But what you know about athletics, higher education, or any industry, if you're standing still, you're going to get passed. So we've really got to focus on how do we enhance what we already have, but think about building new in some spaces too. It's been no secret to anybody I've talked to that we want to get baseball, softball back on the campus. They're out in the Scott Park campus. I really want them there on that in terms of our general footprint for athletics. We want to look at the Glass Bowl and Savage. What enhancements from a fan-facing standpoint need to be made so we can offer a better fan experience. Maybe something you can't see anywhere else. So we've got some plans there.
How much, let me stop you there. Go back to the Team Toledo meeting and some of the questionnaires or comments that you get from not only the business leaders but also the public and the facilities that exist. Obviously, I remember Centennial Hall. I remember what it was. So what has happened with Savage Arena has been amazing. The Glass Bowl, when you look at that, it is an iconic structure for this city. What is being asked of that specifically? I don't want you to give out any secrets, but what could you do? What have you seen on other campuses in your vast knowledge that could potentially be there for UT?
Yeah, well, I think we want to look at a driveway-to-driveway experience. From the time you leave your driveway to the time you go back to your driveway, what does that look like? How can we enhance every single section of that? From concessions to seats to our restrooms, how does everything look, and does it entice you to want to come to a game versus watching it on TV? We need to look at that. I think what we got from those surveys and those conversations was, one, how can we increase the number of outside events that we host? The Glass Bowl is an iconic venue. We use it 6 times a year for football games, and then a handful of other times for high school games or graduations or the like. We need to increase that number. I mean, ideally, I'd love for it to be a 24-hour, 365 building that we host all kind of events, entertainment, concert, whatever venue. To me, it should be the #1 outdoor entertainment venue in Northwest Ohio. The bones are there. We've got to program it as such and make sure it's a facility that can hold such. And as we think about our other facilities, how do we use that to serve the community? I think there's a tremendous need for turf space in the city, a tremendous need for indoor spaces. We talk about baseball tournaments. We want to host all that on the university's campus.
By the way, I got to go back to something, and I think a bunch of people in Waterville just fell off their chairs, the ones who don't want an amphitheater out there. But you just said, I think this can be the premier concert facility for the university and Northwest Ohio.
Absolutely.
You truly believe that?
We hold 28,000 people right now in the lower bowl, in the bowl in general.
Yeah.
When you think about also
this seems dumb.
on the turf.
Why hasn't this happened?
I can't answer that question. but I think you got a venue that holds 25 plus just in the stands alone.
Yeah.
When you think about seating on the turf and what that could turn into. And I think that's what you see at a lot of other places. I know the Horseshoe, they do a country music series. I know Boise State just had a huge country music concert down in their venue. I mean, we've got to utilize that venue more. And whether it's concerts, whether it's movies, whether it's roller derby, I don't care. We need more people, more bodies, more visibility in that football stadium.
And it's about revenue as
Absolutely.
well, correct?
Yeah, well, there's no secret. We need more money because we want to pour that back into our student athlete experience.
Right.
As we talk about scratching the surface and winning more and doing more, well, that takes resources. In this challenging climate with more demands than ever, we've got to find unique ways to generate more revenue. I think utilizing the Glass Bowl to its utmost potential is a big piece of that.
I interrupted you, and you were talking about the landlocked, the presumption that UT is landlocked. You said no. There is more availability on that campus. There is more space to do stuff. You and I specifically talked about some of the areas that may not have been touched in the past. Are there discussions about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at all our spaces and thinking, how can we be more creative? How can maybe fresh eyes to the situation alter what was maybe planned before and reimagine it? On our campus, we certainly have a footprint that we're within, but we also have some grass fields and some other vacant properties that you can look at and say, hey, what would it look like if we reimagine that? If we reimagine in a really efficient fashion too. I think sometimes we build on spaces just to build up the space, but when you've got a defined footprint, what can you fit within that that serves your needs? We've only got a handful of sports right now that are off campus, and that's baseball and softball. Getting them to campus and then finding ways to support the rest of our student athletes is not as big of a physical challenge as it is thinking the right way, pulling the right way, and fundraising the right way, quite frankly.
Talk a little bit as we get a little bit closer to the end of the show and get a little bit closer to the start of football season. What should folks expect in the fall?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this fall. We reimagined our entire football experience from soup to nuts to really say, okay, what does it look like to be a Toledo football fan? So for the diehards, they're going to load us a lot of new things, from a team intro, from our promotions, from everything else. They're going to really jump in. But I think the thing I'm most excited about is really focusing on our students at the university. Our students, when they're engaged in our game, they bring the noise, they bring the energy, and they entice everybody else in the stadium to get on their feet and cheer. So we're actually going to do some really creative things with our students, from moving their tailgate lot to bringing them inside the stadium and dedicating an entire quarter to them. Our plan is to treat our student section like our 17th sport. We've got 16 sports, they're number 17. And when they bring it to all our different venues, our athletes notice and our opponents notice as well. So we're doing a lot of things for all our fans. Really excited about the creativity we put together. Can't wait to roll it out.
And of course, as you said, 6 home dates to play with, and you've got to build it up that week leading into it. You've got to build it up huge.
Yeah, so we've got, due to the scheduling gods, they gave us 4 home games in September. So on the downside, you got 4 games in September. On the positive side, it should be amazing football weather to knock those out and get those done in succession. And looking at our schedule, looking at our opponents, and looking at that team Jason Candles put together, I think we've got a really good chance for an amazing fall.
Bryan Blair, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you, sir. Good luck this fall.
Thank you.
We'll
Thanks
stay in touch. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this. Once again, a big thank you to Bryan Blair for spending so much time with us here on Leading Edge. Obviously very busy with the upcoming season and what UT has to offer as far as its student athletes are concerned. If you missed any part of our interview today, you can check it out on our YouTube page, and always you can download the podcast where you might download those things. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Leading Edge.